30-second board, hot topics in the sport. Watching Austin Forkner, we were anticipating this great Forkner and Deegan kind of battle of the generations. We were getting it, and then he goes down, and that's terrible, obviously, in its own thing. From a humanitarian standpoint, we didn't know what condition he'd be in after this, JT. We now hear it's two broken vertebrae and a broken scapula. I don't know when or if we'll see him back. This is just so hard to see for so many reasons.
Yeah, it was hard to watch, honestly, in the moment. And you saw it live, and then you weren't really sure what his condition was, right? And I think all of us collectively were holding our breath because we didn't know if he was okay. And really until we saw him up and moving and going towards, the Alpine Stars medical mule there, we're all fearing the worst. And it's an unfortunate part of this sport that we all love. It is dangerous, and there things like this can happen. But thankfully, Austin Forkner is up. And let's hope he's back in action sooner rather than later. And speaking of bouncing back, we hope that Forkner will be able to. But these other riders, they were down in the first turn in Detroit. They didn't get the result they were looking for. And you think about Cameron McAdoo, you think about Tom Vial. There were so many points down going into Arlington. Well, guess what? They land on the podium. They really did exactly what they needed to do to climb back into this championship. They had to show up in Arlington, and boy, did they ever.
Yeah, that was big for them to get all those points back. It's crazy. I guess the top four, if you go back to Seth Hamaker, who finished in fourth, were all riders that were down in that first turn crash. And then, yes, unfortunately, they make up a ton of ground on Forkner, who did not finish, and we presume is certainly out of at least this Supercross championship. And the other bummer is, you and I were both analyzing this as the race went on. Forkner had done such a good job of adapting to where Deegan was catching him. It's kind of a chess match through the whoops. But then Deegan said, I had energy. I was going to put in one more charge. I feel like we're kind of robbed of the Deegan versus Forkner battle that we wanted to see maybe all year. Deegan's bummed on that. He did, by the way. I don't know why social media keeps saying he's celebrating too much with Forkner going down. He did send props and thoughts out to Forkner. But then he did also do the ghost ride. Look, man, you got to do it. He won his first Supercross. It's the way his dad celebrated his first Supercross. That's what it looked like when Brian Deegan did it. They did over the finish line jump. Shout out to Haiden for realizing the finish line probably too big these days. Do it over the little tabletop.
Well, yeah, and I think for Deegan, too, not to defend him, but again, this is his first Supercross win. He should be celebrating it. And also, he didn't likely see the Forkner crash all that well. He doesn't know that it was this super heavy crash and we're all worried about the status of Austin Forkner. He's in the middle of a race, right? He sees the yellow flags go up. He knows Forkner's out of the race, but Forkner could have been fine and been, sitting on the side of the track waiting to exit. He doesn't know any of that. So I think we have to be a little bit careful about placing blame. This is a huge moment for a young kid, and I thought he handled it perfectly fine, right? He is who he is, and he had every right to celebrate in that moment. And as amazing as that Deegan win was, right, he's climbing back into the championship. The red plate now belongs to Max Anstey with 2-6 finishes. And I don't know that I've ever seen scores like that would give you the red plate, but that's what this 250 East class has been. Guys have been on the ground all over the place. We lost Austin Forkner there, but Max Anstey going into Daytona with the red plate, this is a huge deal for the Englishman and a very unlikely story.
Yeah, and a huge deal for his team, which Max keeps accentuating, only has like 4 or 5 employees. This is a privateer level firepower Honda team. I want to go to the 450 class now, and this was actually your idea to make sure this was a topic. As exciting as it is with Webb and Tomac making moves and Jett Lawrence and the points lead and all that, there are some other rookies besides Jett who've been really good this year, including quietly Hunter Lawrence, back-to-back top 5s, and he was right there with Tomac and Plessinger battling for a podium, really down to the wire.
Yeah, some of these rookies are really showing up. Hunter Lawrence, that again, we're kind of wondering where would Hunter kind of find himself in this class. And I think that question was only getting louder, but after 2 top 5s, pressuring Aaron Plessinger all the way to that podium finish. And then you back that up with Justin Cooper, who is putting in incredible qualifying performances. And you have to think that some of that speed he's showing in the afternoon is going to show up in one of these races at night. But I think to have 3 rookies between Jett, Hunter Lawrence, and Justin Cooper all inside the top 10 after, we're getting close to the halfway point, I think that's a really strong start to the series for these guys. And another guy that we thought would be up there that hasn't been, right? He has not been a factor so far, has been Malcolm Stewart. I mean, there was always this talk about heat race Malcolm. Everybody, we get so excited about the speed he could show. That's been non-existent this year until Arlington. We finally saw it. And yes, maybe the main event's not quite there yet, but this is a sign of life, or a proof of life from Malcolm Stewart. You see him battling Jett there. The crowd was on their feet, which is really what we've been missing for all of 2024 with Malcolm.
Yeah, to think we've had all this, I got to use the word again, parity, and Malcolm wasn't even a part of it yet. Meaning there's even more competition that could be coming. Everything we saw at Arlington shows that Malcolm could be podium or battling for race wins soon, which is what we expected all along. It shouldn't be a surprise. It's just the first 6 rounds didn't look that way. And you never know what you're going to get. So I want to mention, we already talked about them at the start of the show with Star Racing sweeping everything, 1-2 in the 450s and winning the 250 class with Deegan. But credit to Will Christian on our TV show. She was the one that uncovered this unbelievable stat of the ownership of this building, not by Jerry Jones, but by Cooper Webb and Eli Tomac. The last 9 times we raced in AT&T Stadium, it was either Webb or Tomac winning.
Yeah, they've really dominated this event, and I'm not really sure what the reasoning for is. They switched teams throughout that period. Nothing's really been consistent as far as being on Monster Star Yamaha. They just happen to be there at the moment, but man, do they have it figured out. And I was exiting the stadium at the same time that Tomac was, that Webb was, and all of the team staff, and you could just see the jubilation. Like, they were full celebration mode, high-fiving, hugging. So as they say, the vibes are high as we head towards Daytona, which we know has been a great race for both of these guys. Webb has, I think, 6 second-place finish, or 6 podiums there anyway. And, Eli Tomac's the winningest rider ever at Daytona, so why wouldn't that continue? On the other end of that coin, though, for as good as Tomac and Webb have been at Arlington, and you could argue that Jett maybe should have won Arlington. He was leading the entire race. He makes this key mistake with a few laps to go and then finds himself on the ground again on the last lap. Jett has made more mistakes in this Monster Energy Supercross series than I think I've ever seen in the course of his career, both 250 and 450. And you have to wonder, Weege, is one of these going to catch up in a big way? You think about the variance in his results. We've never seen anything like this from Jett Lawrence. And yes, it's an early career, but it seems a little bit out of character for him.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Jett is so talented that even when he crashes, they tend to be almost ballet or poetic level gymnastics dismounts. There you see the crash that cost him over the weekend. But you can only hit the ground so many times, no matter how graceful you are, before one of these catches up to you. I go back to press day at San Diego where he cased, I don't even know what he was doing there. He did 2.5 to triple or something like that. I mean, a mere mortal is breaking an arm or wrist when that happens. The case in Glendale, which could have got an ankle or a knee or something like that. He always looks graceful and tuned into the motorcycle. But I do worry that if you keep making these mistakes, one of these times you're not getting up, you're scoring 1 point or 0 points, and that's going to cost you a title or even more. So I think if you're the veteran guys, that's what you're not banking on, but it's definitely in the back of your mind that he is still, well, as Eli Tomac says, he's still young. Let's tell you how to watch. We will be on Peacock and the SMX Video Pass all weekend long. Race Day Live starts at 1:30 Eastern Time on Saturday. We'll be racing at 7 o'clock Eastern. And also, we're going to bring James Stewart back on the show. He'll be in the booth alongside myself and Ricky Carmichael, so it will be great to hear Stu's comments during the show. Of course, you can always listen to it on his Bubba's World podcast. And we'll have you, JT, and Will on the floor reporting.
Hi, folks. Lee Diffie from NBC Sports here. If you truly enjoyed what you just watched, you can get more news, interviews, and highlights by subscribing to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube page. You can get it all, so go for it.